Hi guys, welcome to my channel and to my journey in beauty, where every video is an adventure in makeup, beauty, and YouTube, and I'm inviting you to come along with me. Today's adventure is very, very exciting. Maybe only for me though. So today I thought I'd start a quick little mini series all about you helping me pick my Pan That palette for 2019. I am signed up for a project for next year with the Pantastic ladies. I will have them linked down below, but they've created a Pan That palette project for next year called Pan as Old as Time. And basically you're looking at panning one of your oldest palettes. For me, I have three that I bought around the same time. The very first high-end palette that I purchased was the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, which I'm not going to pan. I know myself better than that. And then I also purchased the Lorac MEGA Pro 2, which you know I'm panning this year or working on a few shades, as well as the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette around the same time. So what I need your help with is listening to what I think are the pros and cons of panning each of these palettes, and then I'm going to put a poll up in the cards for you to go ahead and vote. You can vote however you want, vote based on what you're most interested in seeing me pan next year. You can vote based on my pros and cons, or you can look at it from your own perspective, either as a panner, a watcher of panning projects, or just a viewer of YouTube. Not just, I didn't mean it that way. But you know, you can just vote based on your instincts, which you think would be the better project for me. So there's going to be 4 parts to this series. Like I said, the first part is this video, which is the pros and cons, as well as the initial poll. And then each of these palettes, I'm going to take and use them for an entire week, 7 full days, which coming up, I will finally be able to, because I have stopped buying palettes. So I only have 1 more left to review for you guys. And then the last part, which will be part 4, will be me actually announcing what my Pan That palette for 2019 will be, as well as kind of my format for that project next year, what types of things that you can expect to see in my Pan That palette videos, including lookbooks, etc. So let's go ahead and dive into this. The first palette that I want to talk about is the Lorac MEGA Pro 2. As I said, I am panning this, or working on hitting pan on 4 to 6 shades this year for 2019. I have hit pan on 2 shades so far, and I'm like a hot breath away from hitting pan on a 3rd. My goal was to hit 4 to 6 shades, hit pan on 4 to 6 shades this year. So let's talk about the pros of the Lorac MEGA Pro 2. First of all, I think there is more variety in here versus the Jaclyn Hill palette. 2 full rows of mattes, 2 full rows of shimmers, as well as a gradient from light to dark. And that's what I think makes this palette really versatile for me. The second pro to panning this palette next year would be that I already have a good amount of usage on here. I have been working on this all year. I actually really love this palette. I love using it. I'm not sick of it yet. So this does have a lot more use than my Jaclyn Hill palette, which is practically virginal, if you really want to know. And like I said, there's more of a gradient from light to dark in terms of colors. You're gonna see in the Jaclyn Hill palette that there is not as many light shades as what I would say in here. I mean, honestly, this whole section here, minus that purple maybe, are all lighter shades that I can blend out with, that I can use for a transition, that I could use for the highlight shade in a matte look, etc. Now, don't laugh at me, but the very first con to panning this palette next year is that I don't want it to leave my collection. I do love this palette. I would love for it to stay in my collection forever. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, like the two shades that I do have pan on, which are Bisque and Chiffon, I have essentially stopped using because I do like those shades and I don't want to use them up. By the time the 2019 project rolls around, I will have been using this palette for a year. So that's a con in my opinion. And then number 3, this palette is almost obsolete. I do believe it's still being sold at Kohl's. Last I checked, it was not available on the Lorac website. I'll correct myself on the screen if I'm wrong, but before long this palette is not going to be available anymore. And so that kind of ties back into the first con, which is I don't want this palette to leave my collection. The first pro for this is that I can multitask some of these shades as face products, and I don't feel that way about the Lorac palette. First and foremost, the pans are too small to get any other kind of brush in there except maybe like a tiny little highlight type brush or something. But I have used both of these lighter shades as a face highlight. I think all these two at least would be a face highlight for me. This might be more of a blush topper. I'm gonna link it down below, Hannah, I forget what her middle name is, but Hannah Poston, she recently collaborated with Georgia Harris and I subscribed to her channel. She did monochromatic looks using this Jaclyn Hill palette, and she did a persimmon look where she used this shade both on her eyes and as a blush, and it was stunning. As well as today when I was playing around, I was swatching my Hoola bronzer, and this, was it this one? Yeah, this shade right here in the palette is actually pretty close dupe for the shade of my Hoola bronzer, so I could use that as a bronzer if I wanted to. So I do, you know, like I said, I can multitask some shades in here that might help me make progress. Number 2, a major pro to this is that it would be something new and different for a new year. And, you know, that's kind of why I'm even considering this palette. I know that I will have an easier time panning the Lorac palette, but I don't know that that necessarily makes it the right choice. So I definitely know this would challenge me. And like I said, it would just be something different. And then number 3, I would finally get some use out of this. This thing just haunts me from the back of my drawer where I keep my palettes here in front of me. Like I said, it's practically virginal. There is no dips in here whatsoever. There just isn't. I mean, it hasn't gotten a lot of use. Probably the only one that has even a slight dip is this one right here, which, like I said, I have used as a face highlight, and it is my favorite for a brow bone or inner corner highlight in this palette. So those are kind of the pros to panning this palette next year. And then the cons, I think, are going to be kind of obvious. This is a crap load of product. The Lorac MEGA Pro 2 has 12.8 grams of product in there, which honestly doesn't sound like a lot, and it really isn't. But the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette, are you ready for this, is 52.6 grams. Now, I probably should explain that should I decide to pan this palette, I know I'm not going to use this up in a year. I don't even think it's possible, even with me wearing makeup almost 7 days a week. My goal would be to hit pan on every shade in here. So, like I said, there's just a lot more product in here, so that's a con to me. I think I might be more easily discouraged while working on this. And then another con is that, you know, it is practically unused. I have no progress on this. Of course, I do have, if I do decide on this palette, I have some time before the end of the year to dive into this a little bit. And start, you know, using it alongside papers everywhere, alongside the Lorac MEGA Pro 2, kind of in conjunction with each other, still working on goals in here. So there's that. And then the main thing that kind of scares me a little bit about this palette, like we talked about with the Lorac having a nice gradient from light to dark, this really doesn't. This has a whole lot of dark mattes, and I really do find that to be a downer, a con to this palette. I do like using these colors. I do have this on my eyes today, if you can see. So it is a fantastic palette. I really enjoyed my girl Rachel Stephanie watching her pan this palette this year. I'm gonna link her playlist or something like that down in the cards because you have got to see it. And I don't really even think she's multitasking it. I think she's just honestly seeing how far she can get. And I think if this is the palette that I end up choosing, I will have to go into it with that mindset. Let's just see how far I can get with committed, you know, with being committed to work on it, you know, so many days per week, etc. So now that you have all of the information, I just wanted to thank you guys for helping me out here. I've just been mulling this over in my head. I've talked about it with Angela, you know, my girl Angela from Beauty by Angela. She'll be linked below. She thinks I'm crazy to even consider panning this palette, and I probably am, but I want to know what you guys think. So again, there will be a poll in the cards. Look out for a couple more videos regarding this shenanigans coming soon, where I will test out both of these palettes for an entire week, so 7 looks, and I'll come back and tell you what I thought. And then the finale video where I will tell you what my Pan That palette will be for 2019. So thank you very much for your help, and I hope all of your makeup days are beautiful makeup days. I will see you in my next video soon. Bye.